Hello everyone, this is the Gaming Cat here, and it is currently the month of Oktoberfest. Damn it. I've only done a video in the spirit of the month once before, but I've decided to do it again because I really like the new trend of people on YouTube talking about the stuff that freaked them out as a kid. I don't normally jump on YouTube bandwagons, but I really do think that this is an interesting subject, and I'd like to pitch in on it. This isn't going to be a top 10 or top 5 sort of thing, this is just a bunch of things that happened to freak me out as a kid in no particular order. Though I will be saving the best for last because, well, you'll see. So get your blanket ready and don't start drinking anything. This is my childhood trauma. Be afraid. So I'll start things off with one of my favorite games of all time, Diablo. As much as I love it, I was honestly way too young when I first played this game. Granted, it's not really M-rated by today's standards, but it's definitely not the sort of thing a little kid should be playing. And what I'm about to talk about is a good example of why. Before you head into the first dungeon in the game, you find a man near the entrance bleeding to death. When you talk to him, he tells you of how he and his fellow soldiers were tricked and led into a trap by the Archbishop Lazarus.
Now everyone is dead, killed by a demon he called the Butcher.
With this new info, you head down into the defiled church and start clearing it out. Eventually, when you reach the second floor, you find a rather peculiar looking room. This room is smaller than the other ones you found, and it's the most unsettling one yet. It's filled with mutilated, dismembered bodies impaled on spikes, and there's so much blood that you literally can't see the floor. You're immediately wondering, what the heck am I going to find in here? And as soon as you open the door... Whoa! Ow! Oh, that actually hurt. This one quote is so startling because of how unexpected it is. No other monsters you've found so far have said anything, and they certainly haven't made sounds this loud. And what really amplifies the terror is the fact that this is the hardest creature you've fought so far. The other monsters went down fairly easily as long as they didn't overwhelm you, but if you don't keep out of reach or filling up on health potions, the Butcher will kill you quickly, with just the red screen of death to comfort you. Did I mention I was 5 when I played this? Yeah, not all that surprising that I didn't get far past this part. As an adult, I can really appreciate the way it uses the atmosphere and grotesque imagery to its advantage, but when I was a kid, all that went through my mind during this was, nope, I'm done, can't do this, find someone else to slay saying this cowboy is riding out. So for a short period of time when I was a kid, I sometimes watched Speed Racer. Yes, I was introduced via the Fairly Odd Parents special Channel Chasers. It was pretty decent, and as a kid, all I really wanted was some cool cars and fast, fun races to grab my attention. Though there was one episode in the first season that had a moment in it that would always make me reluctant to see it again. In the season finale, Speed enters in what is the most notoriously dangerous race he's entered in yet. Wait, let me see the script again. I just realized that this guy's name was Speed. What kind of drugs were his parents on? Well, I guess that question answers itself. At one point, he needs to make a jump over a dangerous chasm in order to continue, but he ends up crashing and almost dying. To make things worse, he now has no radio connection with his family, so they have no idea what happened. They go out to look for him, but to little avail. At one point, his girlfriend Trixie has a dream where she thinks she's found him, but instead... And no, this is never brought up again. It has no relevance on the plot. I mean, I guess it does show how desperate their search for him has become, but...
What the hell is that?
In retrospect, I feel pretty silly for being scared of this. I don't know, maybe it was just how sudden and unexpected this was, but this is honestly on the same level of a cheap haunted house jump scare. It's actually pretty goofy. But then again, as a kid, it's easy to be scared or creeped out by things that adults would just find in good fun, so I guess I just hadn't reached that kind of maturity yet. I mean, heck, I used to hate looking at creepy album covers in music stores, and now I listen to Rammstein and Rob Zombie all the time. Oh, how times change. Another moment that scared me a lot more than I probably should have comes from the movie Chicken Run. Now this was a movie I only saw very recently, and I must admit I very much enjoyed, so how could it have caused me childhood trauma? Well, you know how TVs in Best Buy have films and shows being played on them to show off the power of what they're selling? Well, a certain part of Chicken Run happened to be playing on one of them one day while I was in a Best Buy. Now at the moment, I had just wandered off from my mom to look around the electronics for a bit, and I happened to come across a TV that was playing the scene when Rocky and Ginger are trying to escape the chicken pot pie machine. Those who have seen this movie know that there's already a lot of imagery in it that could look quite threatening to kids, but the part in it that got to me in particular was where they end up in the oven. Not only did they have to escape a room that's being surrounded by fire and the only way out is slowly closing, but Rocky kept falling over and landing in pie juices, which, as a kid, I just assumed was something like gasoline or some other kind of painful liquid. I'm not sure how I missed all the pies he kept falling in, but the imagery was already so hellish that I guess my mind just started making assumptions for me. And yeah, I look at it now and don't feel scared by it in the slightest, but as a kid, all I could think about was how they were almost burned and boiled alive. I think the TV it was showing on was a bit darker, so that probably contributed to how it basically looked like hell. I think a part of me knew that other people wouldn't find it scary like I did, so when I found my mom, I didn't tell her about what I saw because I didn't want her to think I was a wimp or something. I mean, hey, I was 7, cut me some slack. Hell, even when I was crying in my room later that night because the scene unnerved me so much, I actually lied to her and told her that it was because I missed my dad, who was away on a business trip at the time. I haven't ever told her the real story either, unless she's watching this video right now, in which case, sorry I lied to you, Mom. So since this is a video by the Gaming Cat, yours truly, you were probably predicting that I was going to talk about StarCraft at some point in this. And my friends, you are right. So yeah, it goes without saying that there's going to be major spoilers, but come on, this game is almost 20 years old. You had plenty of time to learn before this video. During the last third of the Terran campaign, Arturas Mengsk uses the psi emitter to attract the Zerg to Confederate planets and destroy them via planet-wide holocaust. When the Protoss step in to try to clear out the Zerg, Mengsk sends in Lieutenant Kerrigan to put a stop to them so they don't distract the Zerg from clearing out the Confederates. Too bad Mengsk didn't think about what could happen if the Zerg went after Kerrigan's forces instead. So yeah, Mengsk doesn't feel bad at all about what he did, and you and Raynor leave out of disgust, which is where the Terran campaign ends. Next is the Zerg campaign, and as soon as it starts, you know that something is up. Across 4 missions, you have to protect some strange chrysalis that's growing something very important to the Overmind, but you have no idea or indication of what it could be. You just know that it's something absolutely vital. Then in mission 4, you get your answer. The thing inside the egg is Kerrigan.
Arise, my daughter. Arise, Kerrigan.
By your will, Father, I live to serve. Let all who oppose the Overmind feel the wrath of the Swarm.
Yup. They took her and transformed her into that thing.
Mother of God. Kerrigan, what have they done to you?
Thinking the same thing, Jim. Important characters dying was already a new concept to me that young, but important characters being stripped of their minds and personalities and being transformed into something monstrous just horrified me. This really shook me as a kid. I didn't know what losing your mind and turning into some horrible beast like that would be like, but I never did want to know. It stuck in my head so much that when I played Mario and Luigi Partners in Time a couple years later, I legitimately thought at first that Princess Shroob was an alien-infested Princess Peach. Now that'd be something. A Mario game where the Zerg are attacking the Mushroom Kingdom. Actually, I'd play the heck out of that. Actually, let's talk about StarCraft a bit more. Yeah, I know, big surprise from me, right? Like I've said before, a lot of the CGI cinematics in the game don't have much to do with the main story other than just giving some flavor, but there were some that managed to give flavor and give more of the story. One in particular came after Zerg Mission 5, the Amerigo, where the Zerg have boarded and raided a Dominion science vessel. This whole cutscene is clearly a homage to the film Aliens, which is a huge sign that, again, I was way too young when I first saw this. But I've gotta say, it does manage to capture the suspenseful, dark atmosphere of Aliens really well, which is probably why it unnerved me so much. The first couple minutes take their time to build up the scene, showing a team of Marines coming on board to blow up the now-infested vessel. It's really silent and eerie during this part, save for the whirring of machinery and the bootsteps of the soldiers. There's no talking at all until they start setting up the nuke, and it just keeps you on edge the whole time. After the nuke is set up, we get some fun gallows humor for a bit, right before this happens. Oh, how I loved being 9. SpongeBob, Hot Wheels, people having their faces ripped off and being dragged into darkness. My heart was already pumping by this point, and even when they were waiting around for the Zerg to rear their faces, I was still shaken about how I just saw someone getting their eyeballs stabbed out! I'm sorry, but that's still pretty graphic for a T-rated game. After a bit, they start hearing scratching and screeching all around them, until they finally see the Zerg heading for them, and then the battle really begins. As poorly aged as the original StarCraft CGI is, this is probably the one point where it really works to its advantage. The blank-eyed and choppily moving Hydralisks look even creepier when in such low lighting, and the low-quality textures actually kind of help giving the scene an alien, uncanny feel to it. But of course, I haven't even gone to the ending. Just when it looks like they're all going to be overrun, one of the Marines presses the button and... Yep, they all died in a flash, and we never hear from anyone in the game who ever heard of them. Blizzard, if you ever choose to make a horror game set in the StarCraft universe, I say go for it, you'd be great at it. We've gone over quite a lot of different things in this video, haven't we? We've seen grotesque imagery, disturbing twists, people being changed against their will, and the biggest cause of my childhood trauma happens to combine all of these. So let me warn you before we go in, this isn't going to be pretty. So, who here remembers Acceleracers? Alright, I guess I'll have to do some explaining first. Back in 2005, Mattel released a series of made-for-TV films to promote their new car line called Acceleracers. Though it was technically the sequel to the first Hot Wheels movie, World Race, it also served as a standalone story. And honestly, it was a lot better than it had to be. Seriously, the story was genuinely intriguing, the characters were great, the action was wonderfully exciting, and it wasn't even afraid to get into dark subject matter at points. Yeah, even though it was about racers fighting robots in alternate dimensions, this wasn't your standard Saturday morning cartoon. It could get pretty heavy. Oh yeah, I'm gonna warn you that this part is gonna have spoilers. It might sound odd, but this was honestly a really great series and you should check it out for yourself, okay? Okay. So the big villains in this series are the racing drones, robots created to win races in the various dimensions, or racing realms. Yeah, you can already tell that this is one dark series, eh? Well, in the first race in the Storm Realm, they managed to knock one of the main characters, Kadeem, off the track and into the unknown depths. And we don't find out what happens to him. Yeah, he just disappears for the rest of the movie, and we have no idea if he's dead or not. Heck, Vert even wants to go back to save him, but finds out that doing so is impossible because the realms don't open up a second time. Kadeem remains gone for much of the second movie as well, save for a couple of unnerving hints that the drones have him. And then at the beginning of the third movie...
We waited so long, Kadeem.
It's clear that the entire time the drones have been interrogating him, and you can just see how much of a toll it's taken on him. As a kid, I couldn't help but wonder just how brutally they tried to squeeze information out of him for God knows how long he was kept in their headquarters. Oh, but we're not done yet, not even close. At the end of this scene, this happens.
Tesla hasn't told you. He doesn't know. Soon, you'll know everything.
And we don't see him again for most of the movie. Yeah, that's all we get of him for the next 50 minutes. Imagine being a kid watching this, wanting so bad to know what the heck is happening to this character, and that is the last image you have for the next hour. And we're still not done. During a race in the junk realm, one of the racers, Mark, gets knocked off the track and incapacitated after he foolishly picks a fight with his brother Kurt. And later on, when everyone comes back to home base, Mark is the only one who doesn't return. As far as everyone knows, he's trapped there forever, but we see more. The last scene in the movie shows that he's now been taken by the drones and is once again being interrogated. And then, this happens.
We may not be able to change your mind.
But we can change everything else.
And the movie ends there! Yup, that is the last image that movie leaves us with. We have to wait months more to find out what the heck is going on. And we're still not done! In the fourth movie, the characters all go on a mission to rescue Mark from the drones. They manage to sneak into their headquarters at first, but the drones figure them out and Kadeem tries to lead them into a trap. Luckily, they avoid it, and Kurt heads directly for the main building to get Mark out. But first, it looks like he's too late. And even worse, he sees himself what happened to Kadeem.
Kadeem? What have they done to you? They made me stronger.
There is nothing left of the original Kadeem by this point. Even when Kurt tries to remind him of who he was, he isn't even fazed by it. Thankfully, Mark wakes up and fights back, resisting the control of the drones. A desperate struggle ensues, but eventually they manage to overpower him. And then we get this one final scene of him.
Kadeem, it's not too late. Come back with us.
Kadeem is gone!
And that is the last we see of him. Yeah, we don't ever see him again. Kadeem freaking died. And for those of you who haven't seen this series, let me remind you that this freaking meant something. Kadeem wasn't just some minor character or cannon fodder, he was one of the main characters. Heck, in World Race, he had practically the most interesting character arc. And this is his fate? It was messed up seeing this as a kid. It was completely terrifying, and I honestly love it for that. I may sound harsh with a lot of this, but make no mistake, I completely respected this series for how it wasn't afraid to go dark and get messed up. It had a real level of maturity to it, and it challenged me in a way a lot of other things wouldn't. I can say that about all the things in this video, actually. As much as these all shocked me as a kid, I wouldn't trade these experiences for anything. They gave me thrills that I wouldn't forget, and even if it got freaky, it was still a lot of fun.
Scary, but fun.
It's a different kind of child experience, but one that's still just as valuable as all the rest. I hope you all enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun making it. If any of you have any experiences similar to what I talked about, please let me know. I'd love to hear about it. This is the Gaming Cat wishing you all a happy Halloween.